Hi, I'm Jake, purchasing agent at Amico, providing you with everything you need for clay. This episode is brought to you by Amico Brent. Find your favorite Amico glazes or Brent equipment at your local distributor. Cheers for listening. Happy glazing.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Rosenfeld Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. The collection exists as an online resource for research and inspiration, featuring photos of thousands of objects made by over 800 artists. The images are high quality and can be used with no permission required, making them a great resource for students and teachers. To find out more, visit rosenfeldcollection.com. Welcome to the Tales of a Red Clay Rambler podcast, featuring interviews with culture makers from around the world. This is Ben Carter. I'm going to be your host. If you'd like more information on the show, please visit our website, talesofaredclayrambler.com. Welcome back to episode 455 of the podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Today on the show, I'm talking with Iwamura. From his studio in Shigaraki, he makes ceramic heads that reference traditional Haniwa tomb figures, but with the colors and aesthetics of manga and anime. In our interview, we talk about developing his approach to cultural artifacts, and as he mentions, making things that appear both old and new. We also talk about his time at the Archibray and the studio that he is developing in Shigaraki. For more information, you can see his website, that's in-iwamura.com. You can also check out his work at his gallery, which is Ross and Kramer. Before we get to that interview, I wanted to thank some of the folks that have donated to the podcast recently. Certainly appreciate your all's support, and I'd like to thank Ian Young, Casey Parkinson, and Cindy at the C2C Gallery. If you're interested in becoming a member of the Red Clay Rambler community over at Patreon, that is a great way to support the show. You can find out more at patreon.com/redclayrambler. Also wanted to throw a plug out there for the podcast room that will be happening at this year's NCECA. There'll be 6-hour-long tapings that will be happening March the 16th and 17th. That Friday, I'll be taping an episode of this show with Marianne Chenard, Julia Galloway, and Che Oshley at 2:30 in room 212. If you're going to be at the conference, I hope to see you there. There's going to be all sorts of fun stuff going on, including giveaways of Amico products and t-shirts, posters, swag, all that stuff for the podcast. So make sure to drop by if you're at the conference. Without further ado, we'll get to the interview. So I wanted to start thinking and talking about your education in Japan. You got a BFA and an MFA from Kanazawa School of Art and Craft, Kanazawa College of Art and Craft. Can you talk about that school and how you chose that?
Okay, so talking about my early education. So I went to the school in Kanazawa, which is north of Kyoto. So the city is known for craft city or a small Kyoto. So there was one college called Kanazawa College of Art and Craft, because the city is famous for the craft. So a school has a nice a craft program. But a reason why I choose that school was almost accidental, because I originate from Kyoto, and my both parents studied at the Kyoto Art University. So I had no idea where I should go, but maybe I was thinking maybe I should go to Kyoto. Then I applied for the Kyoto Art School. At that time, also I could apply the Kanazawa College of Art, craft major, but without knowing what the craft means. So because again, I grew up in the art environment, right? but which means like I do know nothing about art because I, like naturally received art, like environment was normal for me. So that's why I applied for the painting major first at the Kyoto Art University, but like I couldn't get into at the entrance exam, like failed. Like literally, like I remember like there's like three exams. One is like a pencil depiction, and the second one is the coloring, watercolor and acrylic color, and third one is like a sculpture. I think that I was good at the first two, but like at the sculpture exam, like I hit my elbow to my sculpture, and my sculpture, yeah, I knocked down my sculpture, and it fell from the table. So yeah, I failed as well. Yeah, but like then like also like I applied for another school. Then I got into that school. So without knowing where the Kanazawa is, or like what the city looks like, or like without knowing anything, nothing, just like I went that city, but it was great.
So, what kind of art do your parents make?
Oh, they are painter. So like yeah, they both works as a painter and also like teach it at the school. So they both are like they are pro, but also at the same time they are professional of the education too. So it was a great environment, I think.
So, once you were at the art and craft school, was that the first time you had worked in clay?
Yeah, like at my school, at my major, there was like different like courses. Like one is like of course ceramics and wood and the lacquerware and the metal, like metal hammering and the casting and the carving and the textile. So like everything is like based on Japanese traditional like a craft, right? And also at the like a freshman year, so everybody have to take the like whole courses, like 1 month or 2 months or something. Then like when you go up to the like freshman sophomore year, so you have to choose one medium from those kind of choices. So I was lucky to touch the all different materials, and it was great. So like I was very drawn by metal because it's shiny and heavy and hard. It looks cool. And also wood. Japanese lacquerware looks very shiny too. And also like my professor told me because Japanese lacquerware is very like original in Asia, right? If you take these kind of materials, you can go like US or like Western country with this kind of materials as like a Japanese art or something. It sounds cool too. But why I choose the ceramics was because like another professor, like ceramic professor told me, so there is so many ceramic artists existing in the world. So you can't be like outstanding ceramic artist by yourself or something. It was kind of challenging, right? But for me, it sounds like, oh, the ceramics can be the international language. So through the ceramic, through the culture, so maybe I could communicate with like all people living in the different areas. So that was a kind of I think one of the main reasons.
And was the idea there that you would learn to make pots and sculpture? Like, what did you learn to make first?
Oh, the first like of course we start from the like real drawing, right? And also like mold, like casting and like mold making and the coil building. So pretty much like all the like basic skill and the glazing and some like especially like my city Kanazawa was like ceramic, like specialty was like overglaze drawing, so like a decoration. So like we could learn many different techniques.
You got an undergraduate and graduate degree, a master's degree there. What did you specialize in your master's degree?
Nothing like specialized, but like I was interested in like creating some installation and also with a large scale because I had no idea about ceramics, right? I really enjoyed working with many different medium, but like I realized that coil building was like a three-dimensional doodling for me. So which was like what I wanted to do first, right? Because I wanted to go the painting major. So I thought I can draw whatever with the clay. So that's why like maybe I like the coil building the best. Also like I could make like a big piece. It was great. So yeah, I was making like more like a non-represent, like nothing like a, how to say, like a, I forgot English. Not the like abstract, yeah, non-representational sculpture. Like we called like a clay object. Like we never says like a clay sculpture in Japan. So like it was like clay object. Like we were making that kind of thing.
So when you started to build bigger, because this is something that you're really known for now, is to make figures that approximate the human body, like they're as big as the human body. At what point was it in Kanazawa that you got that skill that you could build as big as you want, or did that come later?
Yeah, like the biggest inspiration. I like can I talk about like my like a kind of a thing like a creative process like
Yeah,
chronologically a little bit?
sure.
Yeah, like first when I went to the sophomore year, so I was like very excited because now I can use the clay as much as I want. So I wanted to make something big because like I grew up with like a Japanese like pop culture things like the big like a robot or like a Ultraman, those kind of like a big monster was my favorite. So I wanted to make something like a big sculpture first. But like first, I remember like a first like assignment. So I made like a large piece can fit in like our like a biggest kiln, but like it shrinks, right? It shrinks like 10%. Like after like I open the kiln, the work looks so tiny and small, and I wasn't satisfied. And the next year, so realized, oh, maybe I can connect the parts after I fired. So that's why like I made like a five of like a big parts and they connected. But it wasn't big enough for me. So I was kind of shocked. Oh, like because I spent so much time for like making, drawing, decoration, but like result was pretty small for me. So when I was kind of like struggling with those kind of things, like my professor told me, "Oh, you looks very fun with making big piece, but if you want to make like a very large piece, maybe you should know about the Jun Kaneko." So like he's a Japanese, but like live in the US. So if you could visit him, it could be interesting or something. It was not like advice or something like just like in like regular conversation, but like I got the inspiration from his like a normal advice because oh Jun Kaneko, I have no idea, but maybe I should visit him. So that's why like after that conversation, I tried to find someone knows Jun Kaneko in Japan. So I went to the like our like president room and asked, "Do you know Jun Kaneko?" Or like, and he advised me maybe someone I don't know him in person, but like maybe he knows or something. So then like I drive many different cities to go meet this. Someone knows about the Jun Kaneko, and finally like I heard this something like the guy teaching at the Kyoto Art University visited the Jun Kaneko studio recently. Oh, maybe he can introduce me to Jun. So I drive to the Kyoto and just asked him, like, can you introduce me to Jun? But like, he told me was like, do you know internet? So he has a email address. Maybe you can write the email to him. It was the best advice ever I got. Yeah, like I wrote the email to the Jun. But like I wasn't expected to get the reply because he was busy, right? But like I surprised because he replied me like, "Okay, you can come when."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was my first time writing the email in English, and I couldn't speak English, and just like I had no idea. I didn't have any passport or something, so I never traveled abroad. But it was my first experiences traveling to the US and just visit Jun's studio. He was very kind. He let me stay at his like studio about 1 week, and just like he took me to the concert or like a movie, or like he cooked me every day like breakfast and dinner. It was shocking, and also like his studio was amazing, but like his personality was like amazing. So after that, I was pretty much inspired by him, and just like I became too interested in about the scale, not about the size, but more like a scale. So I think the size is one of the approach to the scale, but like important things is like how my object can exist in the space, not on the pedestal only. So I really want to see some atmosphere under my work in the exhibition space. So that kind of like a experimental like a feeling. So I couldn't imagine before I visited like Jun Kaneko's studio, I think. Does that make sense?
It does. In that sense of scale, I can see that sometimes when I look at photos of your work, I can't tell how big they are. They might only be this big, but they look monumental. And I think that's that part of that scale. You're creating the environment by the proportions of the piece, how we perceive the object in space. But when it came to working with June, like those objects are gigantic. Like he has a huge kiln. So what did you learn in terms of technical process from him? Did you talk about like if you have a bigger kiln, how do you work with multiple pieces?
I didn't learn from him about ceramic skill, like techniques. But what I learned from him was at his studio. Like I saw the greenware piece before the filing. It was already strong enough, without glaze or like any decoration or filing. Like a raw clay was already like a powerful. So then I realized, oh, I don't have to fire. If I need to fire, I can fire, but like I don't need to fire my piece. So that's why at my school, like after coming back to school at the master degree, I did like a couple installation with like raw clay, and just like a pile of got the like free clay from the like a roof tile company, like 3 tons of clay, and just borrow the like a one like empty like gallery room at the school, and just I stayed in the gallery space 1 month, and every day like I pile the clay until it's get into the ceiling. So it was I think the one of the not the breakthrough. I don't know what the best way to explain, but it was kind of the timing. Like I realized, oh, maybe I can make some like scale with it, like work.
So what brought you to Clemson? Because you later got a second MFA. What made you want to get a second MFA?
At first, I wanted to go to US because I visited June, right? I asked him please hire me. But he says I can't hire you. But he also told me but if you became the a student in the US, you can get the a 5-year student visa. And if you like and also in these 5 years, you can come visit me whenever you want or something. That June told me. And I thought, oh, maybe I have to be the student in the US, but I had no idea where I should go. But because June advised me, right? So maybe if I make it happens, so maybe I can break my a barrier, and just I can get bigger or something. So that's why I try to take his advice. Then I was lucky because at the same time when I came back from the June studio to Japan, I heard from my professor the lady who used to study in Kanazawa. Now she's teaching in US at the Clemson University. And she came back as a sabbatical, and she stayed at the school 8 months as a researcher. It was perfect timing for me because I want to go to US, but I had no idea where. Then suddenly, the A professor came from the US to Japan, and we can spend 8 months, right? Maybe I should go half race or something.
And who was that? What was her name?
It was a Valerie.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, Valerie Zimini.
Yeah, Valerie Zimini and Dan. They came when I really wanted to go to US. So the first day I remember at the bar, everybody had a welcome party. We had a welcome party for the Dan and Valerie, right? And I sat next to her and I asked her at the first time, I want to go to US, but I had no idea where. Can I go to your school? And she said, yes, come. That's the reason why I choose the Clemson.
In America, the South and North are pretty different, and the East and West are very different, as well as, there's regional differences. But what was your perception when you came to South Carolina? Was that total culture shock, or were you used to it?
Yeah, it was a culture shock because I never lived in outside of Japan. And Japan is the compact and everything was connected by the train or something. But also as a young kid living in Japan, my idea of the US was Los Angeles or New York City. Omaha was the exception, but for me, everywhere US must be New York City. But first time I visited Clemson, from my airplane, I was watching outside from the window, right? Oh, there was no building, but my airplane's going decent right now. So, but it's only woods here. Oh my god! Please don't. Oh, I wanna go to the city. Oh, landed.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny to think about the differences also between New York City. The biggest city in South Carolina is not similar at all to New York City. Culturally, they're so different that even if there's a lot of people, it does not have the same feeling.
Yeah. The culture was different. Yes. I can't point everything, but because everything was different, first time, I realized that, oh, I have to have a car. Without car, I can do nothing. So it was different, right? And also if I can say culture was different because in Japan, we like re like religious things also it's totally different, right? It's pretty religious area, like South Carolina, right? Because everybody going to the church at the weekend. I did stayed at the how to say a host family thing.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did a host family program, a first couple months, and it was shocking because I never lived with those kind of religious family before, especially my roommate was from the Saudi Arabia, right? So three different religion. Then living in the one small house in the woods of South Carolina. So everything was totally different. And then I can't, not understand. Just it was very, interesting for me. I never judged anything. Just I don't say that it was great or it was bad or something. Just it was pretty, eye opening because I never imagined the people living in the a different situation.
Through getting the MFA there, I wanted to compare sort of the opportunities you had by coming to the US versus the opportunities you would have had if you didn't come to the US. So let's say you didn't go to Clemson for the MFA and you just stayed in Japan. What would you have been able to do there compared to what you've been able to do now after coming to the US?
Yeah, without going to the US, I couldn't imagine like the full-time artist career, because like maybe I could do like a teaching at the high school as like a craft or like art something. It could be like I could be happy with like teaching, but like I really wanted to know about like how to make a living with art. So that's why like I really satisfied of my life right now. But because the reason is maybe like market is totally different. In Japan, like we can't sell or like art so easily. So it's not easy to make a living with like making art in Japan. The market is so small. But like in the US, like there's so many opportunities, like the big market and the small market, like craft market, or like local art market. So we could choose some like strategy, right? So it was pretty interesting for me. And also like in Japan, like I was studying at the like craft major, right? But after coming to US, like ceramic was located in the fine art major. It was totally different. At the craft major, so we always like start making the work with like some history of the like techniques or like materials or like materials like scale techniques like history. Those kind of things were kind of where we started making work, right? But after coming to the US, like we start like at the like a school, like I started to think about like why I want to make art or what I want to make art. It was totally different, but like still like talking about the same things. But like I could see the things from the like a different like a viewpoint. So now like I can talk about my art much better than before coming to the US, I think.
When did you feel like that you had a overall philosophy of art making? Like, did that come in Japan or did that develop more once you came to the States?
Yeah, before making the characters, like I remember like the first aha moment was like at the first critique at the school. So because I could make work, I could make some like sculpture or like object. So like my professors, like they kind of commented me, oh, it's pretty strong and like an interesting work. Then what is the content? And I realized I couldn't answer. Oh, what the content? Because maybe I couldn't speak in English, but also at the same time, like I couldn't understand the meaning of the content. And I tried to answer because like I like this kind of like a coil building and it's glaze. It's very interesting. Then like my first professor told me, oh no, you don't need to find something new because content means like a which is already inside of your work, right? So you don't need to go find something new. So you can go deep in yourself and you can find like why you wanted to start making the work. So then I start to think about where I came from or like who I am. So what I used to watch or like what inspired me when I was a kid or something. So what kind of environment.
Yeah, as you're saying this, it makes me realize that the US system, the grad system in the US, is very much about self analysis. You know, like you think about yourself and that pushes you forward in the work. Do you think that's the same in Japan?
No, like in Japan, like especially at the craft major, I don't know this if it's like correct or not. This is just my opinion, right? But like, I felt like the craft major based on like a Japanese craft movement. So like because like before the art culture coming from the like Western like culture to Japan. So there was like already like a great creation was happening, like ceramics or like ukiyo, a block print or something. Like we never saw the work as art, right? So that's why like there was some like philosophy we don't need to show our personality into the work, but still like work itself is so beautiful, like attractive. So like you don't need to show up, but still like you can use some like materiality, and the material itself can speak or something. That is a kind of like some idea of like a craft, like making philosophy in Japan a little bit. So that's why you can imagine like Japanese potters, so they can go studio and just make work every day. Like they don't speak so much, right? So that is the kind of idea, right?
Well, I also wonder about learning a new language. Well, first you're trying to look inward for inspiration, which is hard. Like it's hard for anyone. Like graduate school is a difficult task for any student. But then you're also trying to explain something philosophical in English. And if that is not a language that you're fully comfortable with at that time, was that like how did you push through that?
Uh, I don't I don't think I went through yet, but like still, because like I can't use the fancy vocabularies. So I have to choose like a simple word. But like thinking about using only simple word, so I can make my idea simple and clear. I think that's useful. I think if I have a fancy word, something I want to talk about, then like I forget about why I wanted to use this word, but because I only have a few puzzles I can use.
I like this idea of trying to get to the essence of a word and also that you're trying to get to the essence of a sculpture because I see that in the way you approach the figure. Like you are making things that look they're kind of one step removed from the human figure. So often it'll be a head and it'll have a nose and eyes and sometimes even ears, but it's not direct representation. So can you talk about developing a style of representing the human body?
Oh yeah, human bodies. After I came to the US, I started to think about myself. I could do anything like drawing, painting, sculpture, like a metal, like a casting, whatever, right? Photo, but I went to the Archibray, which was like a ceramic only residency. And my audience is like a worldwide like ceramic audiences. So that's why I realized that maybe I should focus on the ceramics only during these 2 years, which was my kind of strategy. I think like I could utilize this opportunity fully. I think so. That's why I stopped using the like painting or those kind of other medium. Then start to think about like my origin, like where I came from, or like what I can use the language as my own influence. Then I start like a Japanese ceramic like history things. Then like Haniwa figure, like tomb figures or like a German parts. Those like iconic like Japanese ancient like figure or like object, like artifact. I thought I could use as a starting point of my work. And with like those kind of Haniwa figures, the most simple facial expression, like void eyes and void mouth and non-emotional. So based on those kind of like a simple origin of the figure, with like Japanese ceramics, I start to put some essence of like my own stories. I grew up in Japan, grew up with like a Pokemon or those kind of pop culture, and moved to the US. And I also received like a cultural diversity in South Carolina and Montana and like a big city, New York City. And like some like a pop, like a graffiti things, and also like sports in South Carolina, like football, those kind of American popular culture, Japanese popular culture, and history, like where I was, like I start to utilize those kind of essence into the like a simpleness of like anime figures. Then I create my own version of the artifact, which is a story what I am using right now, I think. like not using, like I'm creating right now. So that's why like the sorry, like the title, like the very beginning, like the series title was like romantic archaeology. So so I wanted to create some like a fake history with my like figure. But like the first time I started to that kind of a series of work, I was doing more like how to say it? I forgot the word. The natural fire, like a sago fire or something like wood,
Okay.
not the wood fire, like when you dig the hole and just like put the, like,
Oh,
some
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
combustion material with it, like
Sure, like a Sagar firing or raku or any of those styles.
yeah, like sago fire, like looks like old, right? Just like with like smoke and like natural color. So I was making fake like antique or like a fake artifact first. Then it became more like colorful and colorful. Like now I feel like I'm making the future artifact.
Can you talk about that desire to make something that's fake old? Because I think there's some humor in that. Like it's funny that you might trick the viewer into thinking that it's old when it's not.
Yeah, because like you know, always we can see the honeyware at the museums or those kind of like things, and you can see like old like ceramic piece, like terracotta piece with some like a dust or like some like uneven firing, like some parts are very dark and some parts are very like fresh, like red. So I wanted to use those kind of atmosphere of some like oldness, or like you can see my work at the like museum. Like, I wanted to show some like fake history behind it, because I thought like ceramic is one of the like information technology we can learn some like history through the ceramics, right? I wanted to play with those kind of idea with my work. So that's why I was making like fake antique at the first time.
So when you started making the more colorful work, it also relates directly to comics, to this I you said like you're representing the future, but you're also representing colors that are popular now. So there's this sense of freshness in that work, which I think is interesting. How did you develop the surfacing of the work, like the combed surface that looks like Zen gardens, like that, the lines that are right beside each other going around the form?
Like first, I wanted to make a fake artifact, right? And I researched some like another culture's artifact, like African masks, or like a Chinese like bronze casted like vessels, or like Aztec, some like gold reliefs from the many different cultures. But like all the culture has like similarity with the line work, right? So like all the like iconic like those kind of cultural objects has some like lines as a decoration. And I thought, oh, line could be some like one of the important aspects of the like a rich history or something like that. Then I first like I was making the lines with the like I forget the word. Sorry, like this was like English. And can you tell me like when you score the work and just put like a white strip and just like carved out, and you can
Sgraffito.
sgraffito? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was making a line with the sgraffito first. So like using the like red clay and just put the white clay in the lines, and then I cycle fire them, so all the lines disappear. But you when you get closer, you can see some lines behind the like those kind of like a dark spot. So I was very satisfied with those kind of fakeness. Like, but like one day, the Perry Horse was like a resident artist at Archibray. Maybe you know, right?
Oh, Perry and Eva. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know him.
the Perry came to my studio, and oh, you don't need to do the sgraffito. Like the line is already, it's beautiful. You don't need to do that. And he advised me, but because I want to do some sgraffito, but like you think it's nice? And he said, yeah, you don't need to do that. Think about it. So it was like a great advice for me because, like sgraffito takes so much time, and also like it can be not seen with like my like Sego fire. Actually, I thought, oh, if I don't need to do the sgraffito, that this line much easy for me or something.
Well, it makes me think about when you were inlaying the white slip in there, the surface would have been smooth, or like the texture would have been very small, as to where now the texture is very three dimensional. Like the carving in is how deep do you carve? Like a quarter of an inch or more? Do you think?
It's like with a millimeter, like 3 millimeter or something. Like it's pretty like not that deep. But with my like handmade like carving tool, so which is a very consistent, and also with the, like like a shadow, like it looks very deep. So now like like everything like simple is better, always. So like idea, yeah, thankful for him. He kind of commented something on me.
So are you spraying color? Is it glaze or slip that's the like when you do the really dark blue, like that
Yeah, yeah,
really rich color, is that sprayed slip?
yeah. It's like it's like angob, like angob, but like it's like more like now I developed it's more like a half glaze and half strip. So it can melt a little bit, but still can hold some texture of the like spray. So I sprayed like a color on gold, I think.
And when you were at the Bray, what were your goals? Like what did you hope to accomplish?
Before I came to the US, like I made my own like like set my goal was like I stay 5 years in US, and in these 5 years I wanted to make strong connection. Even I went back to Japan, I can keep connected with the US. So that's like maybe like a building the network was my like biggest goal during my like algebra time. Of course, like I was curious about like art market or like a fine art or like New York City, big city, like social or something. But like the most important things was like building the, like a network with the people.
Who all was at the Bray when you were there? But like you mentioned, Perry Haas was there, but who else was there?
Like Perry, right? And Hannah Cameron was there. Oh, sorry, like I forgot everybody's name. But like at the same time, like, I was there with like four others, like Noah and Lin Chan and MJ, like Myunjin Kim, Nick. This is like a five and me, like five of us at the same time. And Perry was like 1 year before me.
And when you were getting ready to finish that residency, the way the visa situation works, you have to be either at a residency or at a school to stay, right? Or you have to get a different type of visa.
Yeah, like I didn't choose the like artist visa. If I choose the artist visa, maybe I could stay longer. But it was kind of like a complicated timing. So when I had to choose the like my visa, like a culture exchange visa or artist visa, when I was applying, the US like presidential election was happening. So then like like Trump was elected, and suddenly like everything has changed. Like mood was suddenly I felt like I wasn't welcome. I don't know, like it's not the truth or not, but like I felt like maybe it's not the same as before. So that's why like it was kind of like a very interesting timing because I was living in South Carolina, right? At the same time, I was too busy to think about what's going on around the world. So that's why like oh, like I saw so many flags recently, but I have no idea what's going on here. So yeah, then like I remember that night, like no one was leaving, like Trump was elected, but like I know this is very complicated issue, so like that's why I don't want to say something wrong, or like I don't want to, like I understand everybody has a different like like idea. So that's why I really respect other people. But like that day I felt like globalism or like those kind of is not always everybody's like favorite topic or something. Like it was kind of weird, but like I was alien, right? I came from Japan to US, but like for me, like US was like a very like great example of like globalism. So people came from many different areas, and that they respect each other. So it was my kind of like idea. But like that night, my perception has changed a lot. Next day, I went to the like McDonald with like my like Hong Kong artist friend. But like then I realized, maybe local people are watching us because like we are only Asian in the Helena, right? In Montana. Felt like it became a little weird. So that's why like I thought like maybe like I should go back to Japan for a while. Then I can choose my career. And also like I had a girlfriend in Japan who is my wife now. So I thought like maybe I should go back to Japan first and just get married. And just after that, maybe we can figure out later. Sorry, like it was a sensitive, right?
I'm actually glad that you talked about that because I think a lot of Americans see our political division as being something that's just American, but it has such a worldwide effect of the anger that Trump specifically brought up in the people. And for you to be working in the U.S., the fact that you could feel that shift within a day or two of his election, I think says a lot. So I appreciate that you talked about that.
Yeah, cause like after that, I start to make my own honeywork too. It was kind of like a biggest, like one of the big reason because I thought like I wanted to talk about the diversity of the culture with other people, but like I can't open up the conversation about like U.S. political things because I was alien. So it's like, oh, maybe I should make aliens honeywork. So if they see the like aliens, some like cultural objects, they can start to talk about like some unknown culture. I thought people were afraid of knowing like with like unknown things at the time, right? Not only in the US, but also like in like Europe country, like same time like England was like decided to leave the EU, right? European Union. So like suddenly like world like atmosphere has changed. So that's why like I started to think about like cultural diversity, and I started to make those kind of cultural object made by unknown culture, which is my own culture, I think. For me, like a culture is not based on the like where you live. The culture is based on who you are, I think. For me, I grew up in Japan and moved into the US. But like when I went back to Japan, I felt not comfortable again because like now like a different like a standard. Then like a Japanese standard is not like no more standard for me. So like maybe you understand, right?
Yeah. When I first came back to the South after living in China for 3 years, it was a huge culture shock.
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually surprised at how comfortable I had become living in a country where I didn't speak the language that well. I didn't talk. I talk a lot naturally, but when I lived in China, I didn't talk that much. And for me, that changed the way I observed a lot more. As opposed to when I was first in the US, I talked a lot more. And so when I came back, I was in that observational mode. And I think I've been that way ever since then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You never be the same person. So that's kind of like I really wanted to utilize this kind of a feeling into my work because like my work can speak like not me, right?
I want to go back to something you said about the Haniwa. Those figures are very approachable. So even if someone does not know what they are, they're not threatening. Like there's something that is very accessible to people that don't even know art. So, can you talk about the accessibility in the larger figures? Because I also think your approach to the way you draw faces is also accessible. Like it feels very easy to digest. You can get an emotion from it, even if you don't fully understand it.
I really want to open up the conversation with my work. So that's why I don't want to give them like a specific like a meaning in my work. So that's the kind of my basic idea. So that's why like my work has a very neutral face. Some people thinks, oh, this is a happy face. But some people told me like, why he's angry. So I really like both idea because they don't have any emotion. But just like I wanted to show some like, reason behind it without showing. It could be like some historical things or cultural things. But like I really wanted to show them like a simplicity of some like icon of some like culture. So that's why I think like for me, it's very important to make my work simple as possible.
I wanted to talk specifically about a show that you had at Ross and Kramer, which was maybe 3 years ago. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And you talked about in the artist statement that during the pandemic, your life got small. Like because of lockdown, you basically could just work in the studio and make a lot of work. But also what happened is that you started making these really big bronze sculptures. And the feeling of those is different than the clay. So can you talk about the process of making the bronze and then also that how that related to the show idea?
Since like working with like a big gallery like Ross Kramer Gallery in New York, like before like working with the Ross Kramer, so I was like a normal studio artist. I think I couldn't access to the like rich resources around the world. But after working with the Ross Kramer Gallery, I start to meet lots of artists and also like talking about lots of techniques or like technologies nowadays we have. Like bronze is one of the things. So I never imagined like such advanced like like a 3D scanner and like printer techniques. So now right? Like nowadays our like 3D scanning and the printing is like you can print like your thumbprints too. I use a clay as like my physical action, and I can make like my original piece. But even I use the like 3D, like those kind of like newer technology, like 3D scanning, 3D rendering. I found like still I can keep some like idea of the like a physical behind the clay with the like different materials. So for me, I thought this is just one of the like new tools we can use, right? If you use the pencil, you can draw the line. If you use the scissors, you can cut like a straight line. So like the same, like if we use the like a kiln, we can fire the clay. If you use a like 3D like scanner, we can make it big. For me, I realized, oh, still I can keep my like a main like interest of like a physicality in clay, and still like I can approach to like a larger scale, which I couldn't make in the ceramics. So that's why like it was kind of like my like reason of the like new like technologies, but also like the atmosphere like after pandemic kind of matched with the, like my kind of like achievement of like large scale, and also like I had energy but like, I couldn't use up, so like, it's kind of like like getting bigger and bigger in my inside, but also like I was so lonely. So like those kind of like mixed like feeling emotion. I thought I could make like a big head with like boiled eyes and almost like a melting face with like impact, and which was like exactly like maybe I could capture some like atmosphere in the world.
And the pieces, their size, I should say, the bronze versions are, one of them is 8 feet tall, and the other is 7 feet tall. There was two of them that were a part of this bigger show, and to look at a bronze object, you can automatically see. Well, for one, the color is so different. Like your really bright ceramic work, there's something kind of fun about it. But then when you see the bronze color, that patina, it seems serious. And it made me look at your work in a different way. Like I read the facial expression different because of the color and the material choice than it would have been in clay.
Yeah, like going back to my like very like first experience with the like craft major. Actually, like I touched so many different materials, like the textile, like lacquerware. The bronze was one of my favorite materials too. So like I just play with the materials, and I do what I can do with like these materials. If I use the glass, maybe like I can make shiny piece, right? Then maybe I can choose like those kind of flashy like context for that work. But because of the heavy like a black like a patina of the bronze, I wanted to make something like a dark too. So which was kind of like my like specialty. I understand the materials with like my physical memory, right? So that's why like I feel like so that point I really felt like I was lucky to run at the craft major because we could run the materials first before the making the art, right? So that's why like depends on the materials or like a character of the materials. Maybe we can start think about what I want to make with these materials.
So I wanted to end talking about art communities in general. Like you mentioned, you were in schools, you were at the Archie Bray, you were at the Shigaraki. What's the full name of the?
Shigaraki Cultural Ceramic Park.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So then you're there. Can you talk a little bit about building ceramic communities as a whole? Like what you want out of a ceramic community?
After like working at Archie Bray, like 2 years, like it was fantastic because like I never felt like we are connected with the clay, and I realized that we can share the studio because we use the kiln, but like we can't have a big kiln by yourself. So like we have to share the work. We have to carry the piece together, right? I found that ceramics has some like a ceramic already has a character. We have to share everything, making art. And like algebra community, like people after graduating algebra programs, they naturally start to have their own like studio around algebra, and it became like the creators community, right? So I was really shocked and very like comfortable being in that kind of a community because I never felt lonely in the like people of like ceramic robbers. So they were very nice. So I wanted to make my own version of the community in Shigaraki. Also, like through the break, I could meet so many people from the different countries. And everybody told me if they come to Japan, they choose the Shigaraki. So that's why, if I stay in Shigaraki, I still keep connected with the people I like or like in the world, right? So they come to Japan, then I can show them like my home country. So I thought, it could be nice because like wherever I traveled with like ceramics, people taking care of me very nicely. So I really wanted to do like for them, right? It was my turn. So that's why I really wanted to stay with those kind of international ceramic community. Then I choose the Shigaraki first. And also like a Braze community. I wanted to make some like a new community in Shigaraki in Japan. Then like I can introduce my like a Japanese artist friend to the like my like international artist friends, right? And maybe they could found new like opportunities, like a show in the exhibition in the abroad or something, or just like a more like private like residency in Japan. So I wanted to make some bridge between like international ceramic world and Japanese ceramic world, because I could go to the US with a Valerie. She kind of connected me to the abroad, and my world suddenly opened up. I wanted to do something similar to the like a Japanese artist, especially for the younger generation artist. So that's why I choose the ceramics, and I choose the shigaraki, and just I wanted to create some like a newer version of the community. That suddenly COVID hits, right? My idea was kind of like scattered because like international artists couldn't come to Japan. I remember that time like I was me and my friend, like two of us, was the only artists in the like a huge like studio of the like a Shigaraki Cultural Park. So we were lucky, but like also we were very like lonely. Not lonely, like boring, because like also like communication was like like one of the best part of the art residency. So I know him for a long time. Like I can't ask him anything more or something. I know you, like get over here or something.
From a practical standpoint, a lot of your work, I've seen images of you at the Bray and you're loading kilns with your big pieces. There's a great photo of you inside the kiln. And I think Perry is driving the forklift into the kiln, and you're in the kiln, and you're making sure that the cart of the kiln doesn't hit the side of of the kiln and damage it. But that's not possible if you're not around people. Like there's a scale that you work that you almost need other people. So have you thought about, well, first, do you use assistants in Japan? Like, how do you physically make it work?
Oh yeah, like because of the like residency, like I started my career in Japan in with the residency, right? So at the residency, I had no problem. I developed my like skill a lot because like we had a bigger kiln. So like I wanted to make a bigger piece. So and also like we had an assistant at the residency. So like I could ask them a lot, like just like moving stuff or like loading the kiln. Or, then like I could develop the like my like techniques. But now like I have my own studio and I have no people working for me yet. So that's why now I really feel like I need assistant. So I need to make my own team. But like also like I was thinking, like if I have my assistant, I really want to ask like younger students to become my assistant, and only like I want to make limits like just like only like for example like 2 years only, and you can't work more, and you have to be independent or something. But like during the 2 years, they can run a lot, right? And also like they can use my studio when they don't use or something. I really wanted to give them such a, like this kind of like opportunity, like work exchange. But of course I paid. But like I wanted to make those kind of like a program for me for the future. But the only problem is like Shigaraki is very closed community and like a tiny village. There's not so many place to stay, or like there's no young people
Mm.
living around me. So also like if I want to ask like students, they have to come from the Kyoto to Shigaraki. But it's not so far, but like still like 1 hour driving. So it's not easy to come every day, right? So that's why like I'm thinking how I can make those kind of like infrastructure first. And talking about the community, like Shigaraki has some like not a problem, but it's like a social issue in Japan. So like population is getting like lower, like getting down right now. Especially for like small village like Shigaraki, there's so many like abandoned house. but also like it's a like very like old community. I forget the word. Like not the traditional, it's more conservative community, right?
Oh, okay. Yep.
So they don't want to give up their own land, even no one is live there. So they feel like, oh, this is our own land. I don't want to give up to anyone. So it's like old house. Like there are so many empty houses in the community, but like they don't know how to use it. So now I feel like I can be one of the example to show them like having the newer creators to the community is not something like bad, but also like they can make their own like a like a newer version of the shigaraki or something, because shigaraki is known for the like shigaraki like ceramic city. So people has been making the parts or like a big tanuki figures or something for many years, but now like many businesses closed. But because of that, I felt like there is some possibility or a potential of having a new generation of the creators to build new like creators village, right? So I was thinking like maybe I can communicate with like local people first, then get some like abandoned house to renovate into some like a guest house for the like people working for me or something, or like someone visiting me or something. Basically, like I love the like environment, like countryside of Japan, like the mountain is closed and like nature is so close, and like four season, like nature is so beautiful. So I love the area. So
Is there any government support to help with an idea like that? So, can you go to the local government or even to the national government and say, or to the prefecture government, say, I want to build a new creative village and the houses are already there? Can you get any money or financial support to do that?
I can talk, and they says, "Oh, that's good idea," but they do nothing. So that's a basic thing because they have no idea about like creation or like artists or like how it's like difficult to make. But also like I don't want to use the like a government or like those kind of big power, because like a community could be happen by itself. Of course, like maybe like some support is pretty nice, but like if they have they give us the money, also they give us some control, right?
They have expectations.
Yeah, but their expectation doesn't always match with the, like what's going on right now, right? Like I want to make more like like a pure like creators community. So which of course I can ask the government to some like connected to the like younger people, to the local people, or like making some network of some like or some like inventory of like this is abandoned house and this is like who is a contact or something. So they can make some those kind of system, but like I don't think they have no idea how to do it. Government is not serious about like a population issue. They talks about like very serious. They always talks about we have to make a like community, but like they end up with like making some like a tea house. And people can come here, but like it never happens, or like tourism or something, but like they don't know about the content.
Do you mind if I ask you about the financial part of your art life? Like about making and shipping overseas and things like that?
I'm so lucky artist because like I work with like a good gallery, I think. So we have a nice relationship right now. So like of course shipping is painful, but now like the gallery covered the shipping, and just we spread the like sales, and also like they promote me very nicely, and just like but like the most important things is they take care of not only me but also my family. So they support us pretty nicely, and also That's why like I can talk about like my future plan or like what I want to do. Of course, I listen their own like their like words too, right? I felt like we are very equal, so we have a good team right now.
So, to wrap up, can you leave both the gallery name and your social media so that people could get in touch and see the work we've been talking about today?
Oh yeah, like my gallery name is Ross and Kramer Gallery. Ross Kramer Gallery. My like social media account is like N Iwamura at the Instagram. Like I use the Instagram only. Like Twitter, I use in Japanese only, and I just tweet something like my own personal things in Japanese. Like you don't understand. Nobody understands. I think.
Well, it was good to see you today.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank In for coming on the show, and I really appreciate him staying up late in Japan so that he could talk to me early in the morning over here in the US. Also wanted to thank today's sponsors. That's Amico Brent, the Archie Bray Foundation, and the Rosenfield Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor on the show, you can do that by getting in touch at brickyardnetwork.org. I'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you all for tuning in. If you'd like more information on the artists on the show, or if you'd like more information about the workshops and events that I'll be having in the next couple months, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Carter Pottery. Another great way to support the show is to leave me a comment on iTunes. To do that, search Tales of a Red Clay Rambler under iTunes Podcasts, and you'll find a page that's linked to our show. Thank you guys for the support.
This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network, an extension of the Archie Bray Foundation for the Ceramic Arts. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.